And I have to go to the envelope for that. And I will. And my eyes see Oppenheimer. Yes.
Good morning, Vietnam!
Greetings and salutations.
Oh, hi, Mark.
All right, I ran out of patience.
It's showtime.
Hello and welcome back to In Retrospect. My name is Matt, and as always, I am joined by Brady. Brady, how are you?
I'm very good. Very happy right now. How about you, man?
Do your eyes see Oppenheimer by chance?
They do, and they have for months now.
Al Pacino was super excited to be handing out that Oscar. I don't know if they got him out of his bed. It was like, hey, you're obligated to be here, or what happened? But my dude was on something.
The best part is, did you hear like whenever they cut to everybody walking up to the stage, and you could just hear him in the background saying, "What's going on?"
I did not.
Did you hear that?
I didn't think this was going to be a La La Land situation at all. Like, I legitimately believed that he saw Oppenheimer, but I'm like, how could this have like went any worse? Like, the only way it got any worse is something like American Fiction got announced accidentally, which I'm just like, how do you, it might be the first time ever I've seen an Oscar being given out without reading nominees. It was just insane.
Yeah, apparently, he had released some statement, or his camp had earlier. I just saw it where, I guess the plan was not to re-say the names of the nominees since they've been showing them all night, but they do that every year, and then they still show them at the end. So that's, I don't know if I buy that.
I could buy it. The difference of my thing is, it's a tale as old as time. If you win the Super Bowl and they ask you what your plans are, you say, "I'm going to Disney World."
The Oppenheimer. Oh,
yeah. When you're giving it an Oscar, you say, "And the Oscar goes to," like it's
exactly.
like how did we get to my eyes see Oppenheimer? Yeah. Am I seeing this correctly? Like, I just don't know. Like, even Emma Thompson was confused. Like, it wasn't a bit. Like, the cameraman who was like supposed to be focused on the winner was very noticeably like still walking up to get the shot. It was crazy.
Yeah. It caught everybody off guard.
Absolutely. Dude, what's the initial thoughts? How are we feeling? What was the monologue like? Did you like Kimmel again? How are we feeling?
As far as awards, nothing too surprising, really. Which isn't a complaint, I don't think.
No.
And Kimmel, I like him about a third of the time. I felt like
that's fair. Like
when he hit pretty good. But then sometimes I was like, I don't know about that one.
The weird thing. Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's about 80% like good, like 80%. And unfortunately, I think the stuff that was bad was pretty bad and low hanging fruit. I didn't love the stuff with Robert Downey Jr. I know we talked about that briefly last night. I don't know that I completely believe it was a bit. If it was a bit, it was out of line. I still think didn't love that. That felt like just such low hanging fruit, especially with like the very well known interview situation. Dude. Did we get a job interview for next year's Oscars?
I think we did. It is, and I've been wanting it so bad, and I hope it finally happens.
John Mulaney was incredible. Like, I don't like John Mulaney. Like, I like his comedy. I don't like him as a person, but dude, he nailed that. He nailed it so perfectly.
He's hands down my favorite comedian, like, of all time.
Really? I didn't know that. Yeah, I think the whole thing with the whole line about like, yeah, without sound, we don't get, we need a bigger boat. I forgot the next line he says. And then the whole thing from Adam Webb.
Field of Dreams. Oh my gosh.
Dude, I was crying. So how did your ballot go? What did you get on the ballot? Did you fill out a ballot?
I didn't. No, I didn't. I really didn't. I mean, I guess had it all in my head.
Sure.
I didn't really. It's weird because I usually do, because it's fun. But I mean, I feel like if I had filled it out, I probably would have gotten like maybe 3 or 4 wrong.
I got 3
which
wrong.
Is pretty good usually. That's pretty good for
Yeah,
these kind of things.
I missed on makeup. I had Maestro. I missed on Doc Short, and then I missed on actress.
Yeah, I definitely some of those like below the lines. I expected them to sort of spread the wealth a bit more.
Mm-hmm.
So it was kind of surprising. It was like the Poor Thing show for a while, which I feel like that happens a lot recently. Like, Dune did that. Dune Part 1 did that the year it was up for all the awards.
Yeah.
It like started clearing and people were like, wait, is Dune about to just win everything? But no. And then like that happened with Fury Road, I think too. Like it just started winning everything and people were like, is this going to just win all the awards? It's like, no, it's just those texts. Like sometimes there's just a movie that cleans them up.
I watched a lot of like different like point of views going into the Oscars, and I sent a message in our group chat of this guy who interviewed like randoms, like on his. I don't know if you got the opportunity to watch it, but he also like reached out to. I don't know how he has the hookup, but he reached out to people in SAG and DAG and some WGA and some other places. And he also got them to fill out individual ballots. And I think he got like 100 of them. Poor Things was in the top 3 every single time. Like Best Picture and other things as well.
It was probably the number 2. Like
I think it was.
I mean, nothing was going to beat Oppenheimer, I don't think. But I think it was pretty set number 2. I think it was probably It was probably Oppenheimer, Poor Things, Zone of Interest was probably your 3 highest.
How do we feel about that? Do you obviously like they did a kind of renovation of like the adding in the I guess like is this a new era with the international votes?
I think so. I mean, gosh, since 2019, it's been very different looking Oscars since then.
I think it's made it better. Like I think it's opened up the field a lot. Like Anatomy of Fall was very clearly loved. I think in another world, or another year, I think he could have easily picked up a couple more Oscars. But like next year, it's just going to be as of right now, it seems like it's going to be a one-man show. And I felt like we kind of figured that out in July. But I really like the addition of additional voters because like it doesn't feel less earned for the winner, but it adds so much more parity to the actual like ballot. Like I was very shocked that I got 20 to 23 and it was a relatively predictable year.
Mm-hmm. I feel like getting a wider perspective is going to kind of help to avoid there's a lot of years where you feel like you look back and like, really, that's the movie that won that year. I feel like getting that wider perspective, like that bigger group, is probably going to help avoid some of that. And I mean, I feel like it has in the past couple of years.
Dude, I'm not gonna lie, if Poor Things won Best Picture, if Zone of Interest won Best Picture, or if Anatomy of a Fall won Best Picture, I wouldn't have been upset. I would have been shocked. I wouldn't have been upset.
Yeah, I would have been like, whoa. And then we're like, well, it's really good.
Do you have any particular point, like speaking on that, do you have any particular like points of contention right now?
I guess like really the only thing that I was somewhat upset about was the animated feature.
Mm-hmm.
Like I understand it winning, but also it's weird because I felt like the narrative was there probably for the first half of the year last year. I was like, no matter what, Boy and the Heron's going to win because Miyazaki's like come out of retirement, said this is his last movie. And I'm like, well, it's going to win. And then like you started hearing later in the year that people around him were like, no, he's already working on more movies. I was like, oh, well, that kind of shattered that narrative. So now Spider-Man is just going to clear. And then that was before I saw Boy in the Heron. Then I went and saw Boy in the Heron, and I was like, I don't get it. Like, I just don't get that movie. And I feel like I read a lot of people just don't get it.
Sure.
So I was kind of surprised at one.
So I had it winning, and I had not watched it. My take on it was essentially what you said, except my other perspective was, I think a little bit of, and I say this extremely lightly, a little bit of Across the Spider-Verse maybe left people a little bit heated with like the ending, and then also it is a part 2. I mean, a part 1, yeah. and we've talked about this before. We don't. I don't suspect Dune Part 2 to win next year. Unfortunately, not that it's not deserving, but because more so because the Lord of the Rings effect, where it's like, well, there's always next year, and I kind of wonder if that was not some of the idea when voting for The Boy and the Heron.
It could have been. Yeah, I don't know. And it's not, this isn't me being like a fanboy or anything either. Like, I'm a massive fan of Hayao Miyazaki. Like, I'd say pretty much all of his movies are at least a 4 out of 5. At least. Except for Boy and the Heron, which like was just shocking. I tried so hard throughout the entire runtime of that movie to just like buy into it, but there was just no point where I could really get into it.
I've heard that. You're not the only person.
And I get, it feels like a culmination of all of his other movies, but at the same time, it feels like me and my friends went and saw it, and afterwards we were talking about it, and we're just like, it feels like he just kind of had a bucket list of just things he wanted to just do, and it didn't make sense, but it looked pretty cool.
Right. Yeah,
that's kind of my thought on that movie.
I've heard, and I'm speaking very lightly because I haven't seen it myself, but I feel like I've heard people talk about it being maybe a little bit too ambiguity, like have too much ambiguity to it.
It is. And I don't mind ambiguity at all.
Sure.
Like, a lot of his other movies have that. But I don't know. It feels like somewhat like Tenet in that way, where it was so ambiguous that you don't even know what is being ambiguous about, you know?
I read a tweet, I'm sorry, tangent. I read a tweet earlier today. I don't know if you saw it, but it said Christopher Nolan got back to his hotel last night, took a sip of some blue label, I'm blanking on the name of the whiskey, and then took a whiteout and whited out Oppenheimer, and then took a Sharpie and wrote Tenet on it, and then started playing Travis Scott's The Plan.
Dude, I'm waiting for him to announce Tenet too.
That's so funny. So now that we're on Nolan, I wanted to ask, so Roger Deakins, for a very long time, this is obviously cinematographer versus director, for a very long time deserved an Oscar. And then he finally got it for, was it 1917? No, it wasn't 1917. It was the movie before that.
No, it was
Blade Runner.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see Nolan going on I just got my first Oscar run, and I it doesn't matter anymore? You get what I'm asking?
Oh no, I cannot see him doing that. The only thing that would make me think that was even possible is Tenet, because that just feels like purely just something he wanted to do because he thought it was cool.
I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. Any chance like he goes on now that I've secured my Oscar run, like the weight of the Oscar is lifted, and so he can just, he's in his bag constantly now. So. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I could see that. I feel like it's weird because I never saw him as like a I need it, like I want an Oscar so bad. Like you can say that about so many directors,
sure.
like gunning for it. I'll be honest. This is super transparent right now.
Sure.
Like into my mind. So, I'm a very big Nolan fan.
Mhm.
And
You don't say.
Dunkirk. Yeah. When Dunkirk was announced, I'm not going to lie, I was upset because I was like, that's not why I go to see Nolan. Like, I like these high concept, crazy things he does. And I was like, I love war movies, don't get me wrong.
Mhm.
I really love war movies, but I was like, that's not really what I want Christopher Nolan to do, And then at that point, I was like, I guess he's kind of just wanting to make an Oscar movie. And then same thing whenever Oppenheimer was announced. I was like, I don't really know that that's not really what I want him to do. But then both of those turned out to be incredible movies, so it doesn't really matter. But I'm just like, I'm kind of hoping maybe now that he's done this, he can go back to just doing the super heady, high concept stuff he likes to do.
Dude, I need him to revisit Inception. Like, I think that could be a fun avenue. Like, I know he doesn't do sequels, like, obviously outside of The Dark Knight, but, like, I need him to figure out a way to go back to Inception. That's what I need.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. That world is just so cool.
Absolutely. So, since Nolan has finally got his Oscar, like, who's the person, not necessarily a guy, comes to mind that you're like, this person needs their Oscar now? It's not Bradley Cooper out of the situation. We'll get to Bradley Cooper later. That's a whole different. We'll get to a different. That's a whole different conversation.
That's actually what I was going to say.
I figured.
To be honest. Wow. I don't know. I don't feel like Denny's there. Like, I don't feel like he's at a point where I'm like, he's got to win it.
Unfortunately, his podcast has come to an end, guys. Me and Brady split for creative differences.
No, I just mean personally, it's just like,
I get it.
I don't know. I'm trying to think. You go ahead, because I know who you're going to say because of that. But
no, I wasn't thinking Denny, and this is going to surprise you. I think Jordan Peele was robbed for Nope.
Yeah, that's a good call.
Yeah, I would lean Jordan Peele. I guess he's got an Oscar for Get Out. Never mind. That was a bad call.
I'm trying to think of like someone who's been around a while and hasn't gotten one.
Billie Eilish has 2 to Martin Scorsese's 1.
That's insane. It is insane that Martin Scorsese's only won 1 Oscar.
It is a dang
it took
tragedy.
Him 30 years to win it.
And we can segue into this in a moment. And I liked Killers of the Flower Moon a lot, but it makes me irate that one was one of the few that did not get a single Oscar last night.
Yeah, it's really weird. It's weird, like I feel like it came out at the wrong time. Don't you? It like kind of came up like, I guess it was a while after the Barbenheimer stuff.
Was it during the strikes?
I think so. I feel like if it would have been like a November release, it would have hit pretty hard.
I don't know. Like, does it feel a bit like Silence? Did Silence come out in December? Or was it November?
It did.
Okay.
It was December, yeah.
Okay, never mind. I guess that probably is the problem then.
Now that's a travesty.
Yeah.
The Silence, I think it was only nominated for cinematography, which obviously it should have been nominated, but just going back to that movie around the time Killers of Flower Moon, like I think it hit like top 3 Scorsese. Really good stuff.
Yeah, I like it a lot. I wouldn't remove it from director after, like, I've seen everything now. Like, I know where my stances are. I've watched most things twice, and there are some that are not like the others. I'll let y'all infer into that. Killers of the Flower Moon, unfortunately, is not one of those things. It's very long, but I think that, again, I don't know that the director is the choice. Obviously, I don't think picture is the choice. It It would have been an adapted. I don't think it beats American Fiction, unfortunately. I think the only lane was actress. And, you know, I've thought about this for like, I mean, you know, I've wrestled with this because I've watched Poor Things. And at first I was like, it's Lily Gladstone. When I watched Killers of the Flower Moon, and I was like, oh my God, you're right. It's Emma. And then I've waffled on it. And I mean, even yesterday, like Zach and I talked about it briefly, and I thought she was going to win because of SAG. I think that Emma thought that she was going to lose. But ultimately, like, I thought about it today, and I'm like, in 10 years, like, and this is no like shame on Lily Gladstone at all, but in 10 years, which one of those two performances are we going to remember? And I can't convince myself it's going to be Lily Gladstone's character.
Yeah. And as lame as it is, the Academy just doesn't really go for the subdued type of performances like that.
Yeah.
Even whenever they're as great as that one was.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't even know that was the issue. I just think Emma was just so good.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, honestly, I think Emma was probably the best actor / actress this year. And because of that same rationale, like Lily Gladstone's performance right there behind it. Now let me ask you this. Is there any part of that nomination, Lily Gladstone's, that is fraudulent?
I don't think so. You mean like category fraud?
Yes.
Or like she should have been in supporting, maybe?
Yes.
Yeah. I thought at the time when that movie came out, she was going to be ran in supporting. Because I don't feel like there's a lead in that movie.
No.
I wouldn't say any of them are the lead.
I think, and maybe I'm incorrect in this. I would think, and I've only watched it once. I think Robert De Niro has more screen time in that movie, and he's in supporting.
Yeah. Yeah, I also thought that.
And so, like, that being said, do we think she beats Divine Joy Randolph? I think probably. I think she might. I think there's a possibility of it, but it's about as close as the race is with Emma. I think she has a better chance against her, though.
Yeah. Okay, I've figured out who needs to be the one to win the Oscar next.
Okay.
Very long awaited, and it's
Lily
kind
Gladstone.
of insane. It's kind of insane. This person's never won an Oscar.
Okay.
Because most writers consider him the greatest living director.
Okay.
Ridley Scott has never won an Oscar.
Interesting.
He's been nominated 4 times.
Was he nominated for The Martian?
Yeah.
Who was he up against that year? That was 2015, right? No, that wouldn't have been.
Yeah.
Was it 2015?
It was 2015.
So
Nominated for The Martian, Gladiator, Black Hawk Down, and Thelma and Louise.
Oh, I love Thelma and Louise. That's such a good movie.
And Gladiator 2 is coming this year.
We'll see.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really want to, because I know this is what the rest of the year is going to be like.
Yeah.
But just like, you got to think. I mean, Denny obviously, and then him, and then Francis Ford Coppola, and then probably international films are going to rule the world this year.
Dude, I think they are. I think
I'm excited about it though.
Yeah. I mean, I think Parasite was the gateway drug. And if that was the gateway drug, this is the we're here and we're here to stay. And then next year is going to be like the door swung completely open.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even like not just the best pictures or the directing, but like also like, dude, I could have dropped, and this is awful. I think Jeffrey Wright's fantastic in American Fiction, but he's also just Jeffrey Wright. I could have dropped him for, is it Teo Young? T.O. I forget his name, but the guy in Past Lives. I could have dropped.
Yeah, he was really good.
Jeffrey Wright for him. Charles Melton.
Yes.
Like the list, dude. Like
Zac Efron.
yeah. The one that just I cannot listen. I got to get my take off. I didn't put it in my list, but I need to do it. They disrespected May December. Like I knew what I was watching, but they disrespected May December. I can't take it serious. I know that they didn't like it, but I watched again the video that I was telling you about where they kind of like balanced out where to see where SAG and DGA and WGA all were. And I like May December only got like 3 votes out of 100.
That is weird. That's really, really weird. That's like, I do not understand that. Like, that movie and Iron Claw both just seem like such, they just seem like things that awards would just eat up, those kinds of movies, like with those strong lead performances. And
dude, I will go on record. I think the 3 performances in May December are some of the best performances of the year.
they are. Mm-hmm.
Like, I really truly believe that. Without getting off topic though, was there a biggest surprise of the night for you?
I think it wasn't so much as a surprise because I felt like it was possible, but I thought it was really neat that that Zone of Interest won Best Sound.
Dude, I texted you when I got out of that movie. I guess what, 2 months ago, month and a half ago, something like that. There was no way they were losing that.
Like, it is the most important aspect of that movie, I would say.
Yeah, and I heard a take on this the other day by a person who predicted that Oppenheimer was going to win that. And they said that the reason, and this baffles me, the reason that the Zone of Interest should not win for sound is because that's more of a director's choice. And I'm like, think of the movie, right? Like, think of what the movie is, and then tell me, like, convince me that a director's choice to utilize a sense that is an awardable sense and makes that, like, where's that logic coming from? Like, you're utilizing a tool in your tool belt that can be awarded.
Every category.
I'm like, what are we talking about?
That is a horrible argument.
Yeah, it's a very, very famous pundit. And I'm like, what? Like, that's the thing you cooked up in the kitchen?
You'd be like, that actor's performance was so led by the director, they don't deserve to win.
Bingo.
You could be like, cinematography, the director like storyboarded those shots, they deserve. Like, you could do that with everything.
Nah, if there was something that outside of like Divine Joy Randolph and Best Picture that I was like, it's locked up, it was sound for Zone of Interest. Mm-hmm. Like that, it uses it so well. And I think, I don't know if I told you this, Brianna and I have definitely talked about it. I think Jonathan Glazer was second for directing. Yeah, I would be very shocked. Huh? Justine Triet, Martin Scorsese, and Yorgos.
Yeah, I would say so too.
You've seen it?
Zone of Interest?
Yeah. Because we haven't talked about it. Okay. Yeah. Did you like it?
Yeah, it's good.
W. Yeah, it's one of the most, it might be the most haunting thing I've ever seen.
Really?
Yeah.
It's really, yeah. I think, I don't know, it's weird. I feel like it loses steam a bit.
I get it.
At the midsection, but then like the first third, last third are just insane.
Dude, the garden scene in that movie?
Yeah.
That's a short film in itself.
Mm-hmm.
But no, Zone of Interest, incredible. I think the one for me that I was like, oh, dude, it has to be makeup. Poor Things taking makeup, right?
Yeah, that was pretty surprising.
I'm a big Poor Things stan. I think I told, like, I'm not going to rewrite history, but I think that I mentioned that there was a chance that Poor Things could take production design a long time ago outside of Barbie. That those were my two like front runners, and then when Makeup Hours had Maestro, which I'm a little bit indifferent on this. Like, how far is too far? Like, with the makeup thing, like maybe that's a separate thing. Like going try hard with Oscar baity stuff, but like, how far is too far? Are we just like done with that? Like, at some point, it's just makeup to do makeup, and so I wonder if that was like part of the mentality. What's that?
I'll never be done with that, but it does feel like they're starting to be done with that.
But yeah, Poor Things just like there's a lot of revisionist history on Twitter right now about like the costume design, production and production design, costume design, and makeup and hairstyling. About how like Poor Things just was all CGI. Like I read stuff that was like they're all CGI, and I'm like, dude, did you watch the movie? Even if it was, which it's not, but did you watch the?
Yeah, like I've not watched the movie. I probably won't watch it, but just from the trailers alone, like all of its wins, I was like, yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
Dude, just the wide shot of her on the boat is enough.
Yeah.
The wide shot of her walking in the city and the tram going by is enough. Like I don't understand. Like Barbie Land was adapted from toy concepts, which is fine, and they adapted it well. They deserve their nomination, but it ends there.
I feel like.
Oh, go ahead.
I also feel like, just from what I can tell from Poor Things, like the entire movie is like that. It's super that what do you call it? The
aesthetic,
the production design, I guess. Yeah, the aesthetic. There you go. It's like that throughout the entire movie, and absolutely. I think a big part of Barbie is like, and it's probably director's choice, but just once they get to the real world, like everything just seems so bland and just like very generic.
Yeah, so I tried watching this movie again recently. And I've talked in the past when I came out of it. Like I think Greta was a fantastic director choice for this movie. I think she did it really well. Now in the past, I really liked the script. I did. Dude, it is a slog to get through on the second watch.
It is.
I think that it's almost like Brianna made the example of it's a mic drop of a movie, and that's absolutely true. What happens though is when you film a mic drop, it's less impactful the second time, the third time,
it is. The
fourth time. And I think what happened for me, like personally, and this is part of the reason I'm like, I don't know that Ryan Gosling deserves it, because when I first watched it, I'm like, dude, he deserves a nomination, and he did, rightfully so. I don't know if he deserves it for this, like, deserve to win for this movie, because it does, for me personally, like the performance just does not hold the weight the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth. Like I personally watched Oppenheimer 3 times in theaters. I almost watched it again today, and I just got busy. And Strauss, phenomenal as ever. Like I'm sad that Barbie only took home 1 Oscar, but they're lucky they took home 1 Oscar. And I don't know who was more robbed, Greta Gerwig or Dua Lipa. Like I'm not sure which. And that being said, like, not to take anything away from our 2-time Oscar winner Billie Eilish, but I'm not so sure she deserved her second Oscar for that movie.
I'm just going to be real right now. I really like that soundtrack, but that's probably my least favorite song on the entire soundtrack.
Okay, so I mean this both as a compliment and also like as a negative toward the movie. It's a compliment about the song and unfortunately a negative for the movie. It feels a bit, and I can't think of another comparison, but it feels a bit like Skyfall to me. And the purpose that it was made to be a ballad, it just didn't catch on. Like Skyfall's like, it feels like a Bond song. Maybe that's a better way to say it, right? Like a Bond song is a Bond song because it plays at the beginning of the movie. I can't tell you where what was I made for plays in that movie. Is it the credit scene?
No, it's the scene where she sees the old lady Ruth, and then they have like the montage of, I guess, all the people who made the movie, like being young with their mothers and stuff like that, and like plays over that. Like, it's a good moment, but I don't know. Like you said, the Dua Lipa song, controversial as she is right now, the Lizzo song, the obviously the showstopper last night. I'm just kidding. Like, there's so many better songs on that soundtrack. I don't know if I would say better. Like, I don't think it's a bad song. Do not get me wrong.
It deserves the Grammy. 100%. It's weird to say something deserves the Grammy, does not deserve the Oscar. But in my mind, they're two separate things. One is a songwriting. Like, I think, let me be clear. I think What Was I Made For is an incredible song. I'm a massive stan of singer-songwriter stuff. Like, that works for me. The Grammy, I am happy for you. You deserved it. But for me, in my mind, the Grammy, like at musical excellence, is different for a song in a movie. Like, the song in the movie is supposed to fit. It's a puzzle piece. It's not excellent. Like, it's like an actor being in a terrible movie and being the best thing about that movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oftentimes those do not get recognition because they're not, like, it just does not, the puzzle piece does not fit. And I kind of think of it the same way. Like, that's probably like a super loose analogy. I understand that. But for me, when I think of the movie Barbie, guess what the Oscars thought about that movie? They ended the ceremony and they begin the ceremony with Dance the Night Away.
That's right. They did.
There is a reason they did that, because one, it's a good song, and two, it's the song you think of when you think of that movie.
It is. Is there like a limit to how many songs you can be nominated? Like, I thought there was, and then Barbie got like 2 nominations. And then I was like, they could have probably filled every single spot.
Well, you know what? Really, yeah, that's true. Very, very true. What's weird though is I think that Dance the Night Away was also nominated at the Globes and lost.
Yeah,
which I just find that so strange. Like, again, if we're voting for song excellence, I guess it makes sense. But I feel like there's been times in the past that I can't recollect right now that we have not voted that way. Like, it's been more of a puzzle piece in a movie.
I feel like it's also become like her and Phineas are such big names.
Sure.
Now that just like it's basically like a John Williams. Like, John Williams does a score, he's going to get nominated. Billie Eilish does a song, she's going to get nominated.
Yeah, that's, again, at this point she's won 2 Oscars. Martin Scorsese's won 1. I don't even know how many times she's been nominated. Is she 2-0?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, that's insane. To get off of that, any immediate, that was the wrong choice outside of music?
I really don't think so.
Yeah, I don't. Nothing particularly comes to mind. I know there's a lot of flack with War Is Over for animated short, but I personally did not watch any of the shorts outside of the wonderful story of Henry Sugar. But
no, I haven't watched that, but what they showed of it and like what they were talking about with it made me really want to watch it. That's the way I felt about a lot of the shorts, like even the documentary one about the music instrument repair shop thing.
Yeah. I've got it right here. Let me find it. The Last Repair Shop.
Yeah. Like, I want to watch that now. Like,
I've heard it's good. It's like 40 minutes. It's on YouTube.
Year. But yeah, I didn't realize like Peter Jackson helped with that. The War Is Over one. I know he's like the guy for the Beatles right now, pretty much.
Sure.
But just I don't know. It really interested me. I'll have to check it out.
What would you say is the win that's going to age the best? Outside of Oppenheimer and Chris Nolan. Okay, I can't give you the law
I think
balls.
original screenplay.
That's a good call.
That's Anatomy of Fall, right?
Yeah. That's a massive shout.
I saw today. She said they had a meeting with Spielberg, and he told them that he wants them to write a movie for him.
Dude, I saw that.
I need it.
Furthermore, iconic that they played PIMP at the Oscars.
Dude, so good. So good.
Speaking about the iconic at the Oscars, dude, I have never felt more Ryan Gosling does not deserve the nomination or deserve to win than I have. I mean, I've never felt like I was more wrong in that statement than I did last night. Like he deserved to just win just based on that one performance. Like
it's crazy because he I feel like it's part of his his kind of like I don't know how to describe it, but just like he likes to kind of pretend that he's like a shy person and stuff, but then like he does these things and he's like such a great entertainer.
Dude, like I saw it's been all over Twitter, so I'm stealing this, but he's better than some of the male like pop stars out there. Like he's got more like stage presence than them, which is insane. And obviously he's an actor, but also they're an entertainer, so they kind of go hand in hand. He owned that stage for 4 minutes. And it is just incredible. Like I loved the way they started it. He started in the crowd, like flirting with Margot Robbie. It was perfect.
It was so good, man.
And I think they timed the adding the additional actors in really well, because I noticed, I'm like, where are they? Where's Simu Liu? I know he's there. And then by the time I got that question out of my mouth and I was looking at Brianna for an answer, they appeared. It's like perfect timing. But no,
and then Slash.
Yeah.
I was like, is that Slash? It's so cool.
No, they really killed it. I still think Downey deserved it. There's been a lot of conversation about, Best Actress just being a race. I would be very curious to see how things, like how the votes went for supporting, because after seeing everything, it's really stacked. Like Sterling K. Brown deserved his nomination for American Fiction. I don't know if you got to catch it.
I haven't got to, but I think he's like one of the greatest actors working today.
Robert De Niro obviously did. Gosling obviously did. And then you know my take on Ruffalo. Like that is an insane lineup. Like each of them just incredible. I was just going to say something else. What win ages the worst, do you think?
I mean, is there one?
I got one.
What are you thinking?
And this is a bit of a touchy subject, but it's going to segue perfect.
Okay.
I can't believe I'm saying this. So after tonight, we're never going to reference this again, unless I'm right. Is the Godzilla -1 visual effects Oscar? How do we feel about that?
Oh, that's like, I forgot. I meant to say that's my favorite win, like outside of Nolan.
It's both my favorite. I love that win. I'm so happy for them. I think there's a weird thing going on here though. When I initially read this, I'm like, this feels a little ex machina to me. Like I could totally see them taking this because it's a better movie. Now, 2 years from now, and it's still a better movie, when we watch The Creator and Godzilla -1 back to back like we do on every Sunday.
I don't know if I'll ever do that. But it sounds like something you would do.
Both two great movies that came out last year.
Godzilla twice.
How well is the visual effects going to hold up versus the other? And if we're awarding strictly on the visual effects of it all, you see my point?
Yeah.
It's a controversial take. I get it.
If that's the case, like, if we're doing best visual effects, I don't think either of them deserve to win.
Who do you give it to?
Who are the other ones?
There's the creator. There's Godzilla Minus One, Guardians, Death Reckoning, and Napoleon.
I'd say Guardians.
Really?
Yeah.
I think that's my fourth choice. I think. Yeah, that would be my fourth or fifth choice. I would have probably went creator -1. I'd probably go creator, Napoleon -1, Guardians, Reckoning. Probably the way I lined it up. But I've waffled with this. I love them getting a nomination. It's gonna help. I know. Is it a small studio? Or is it just a bunch of friends who made a movie? I'm not entirely sure. Either way,
no. It's like the Godzilla studio. Like it's like the big Japan studio. They just barely gave them any money for it.
It's gonna help that studio out a lot, more so than what I think whoever made the great. Like obviously, I know it's Gareth Edwards, but whatever studio made that movie, they didn't need it as much as Godzilla -1 studio, and so I'm happy for that reason. But I know it's good. I feel like it has an asterisk next to it, and I hope it does not age that way.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of the one I'm like, I don't know how I feel about. Like, I love it. I picked them to win. It hasn't set with me yet where I'm like, outside of the moment when they announced it, and I was like, I'm elated. I'm so happy. I just don't know that it completely worked for me. Anything specific you want to talk about?
I thought it was weird that thought it was weird, and we kind of talked about this. Like, I didn't even realize Scorsese was there until like halfway through the show.
Yeah, that was so strange. Did you see the clip of him dancing to "I'm Just Kid" or just really enjoying it?
That was great. That was so good. But just like, did you think, like, I mean, he's my boy, so I was very happy about this. Did you think it was like really odd how much screen time old Stevie Spielberg got last night? He had like 2 bits.
Yeah, the one with Kate McKinnon and America Ferrera.
And then the opening monologue.
Oh, that one. Oh my, that was an incredible joke. The Fableman's really joke. Good. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, in relation to who did not appear on screen, I think so. But in relation to like previous, I'm not. You know who got a lot of screen time with that? Is like, oh, this is like not undeservingly so, but like just a lot of screen time for no particular reason. She didn't win.
The dog,
Sandra Huller.
Yeah, she did. Ooh, she got a lot.
Yeah,
I kept thinking that. I was like, are they like trying to sneakily tell us that she's about to swoop in on this best actress? I'm
not gonna lie. If she won that thing, I would have been elated. I'm like, it would have came out of nowhere, and I would have been happy.
She was the best actress this year.
You have, well, there's Natalie Portman, but you have no, I have no qualms with that. I would have took it.
She gave the 2 best performances this year.
Well, I'm indifferent on the Zone of Interest one. I think she's really good in that movie, and arguably could have been nominated for supporting in that role, but indifferent on that one. I'm not as Mary did that one, I guess.
Well, good. That would mean
yeah, that would be really weird.
We definitely podcast then.
No, dude, Sandra Huller. I would have been so happy if that happened, but no, she got a lot of screen time. I need to watch more of her things. Do you know? Have you watched anything else that she's in?
No, I didn't even know who she was here.
Same, like she was fantastic. I'm trying to think.
Oh,
go ahead.
The Spielberg thing though is like, it was weird because it felt like Fablemans came out this year. The way they were kind of treating them, like they basically, because normally they would have been doing those jokes like to Martin Scorsese.
Sure.
That's what I thought was so weird about it.
Are you thinking they're how much is still left in the tank for the boy?
I mean, Scorsese's much older.
Sure.
I'm
just wondering if there's something people may or that we may not know that other people do know.
Oh, don't do that to me, Matt. But
that hug was very long last night.
Oh my gosh! Don't do this. Anyways, yeah, I just thought it was really interesting, and I guess like he's probably the most well-known director in movie history. I mean, just like the general public.
The one thing I do know is that he loves Fall Guy.
Really?
You didn't hear about that?
No.
Earlier this week or last week, Ryan Gosling made a statement and he said, I was at some award ceremony and I saw Spielberg walking over in my direction. And I'm like, I don't know this guy. I know the guy, but he doesn't know me. There's no way he's coming to talk to me. And he's super close now at this point. And he says something. And I'm like, me? And he's like, yeah, I just watched Fall Guy. Incredible.
Matt, now I have the new most anticipated movie of the year is The Fall Guy.
Listen, we're breaking news on this thing. But no, I read that sometime last week.
Oh, all right. Okay.
I mean, they got an appearance last night.
Dude, their chemistry was insane.
Yeah, it was. Well, let's talk about that moment. Let's talk about that moment. So it's set up. They're joking about Emily Blunt and him are joking about the rival between Oppenheimer and Barbie, and it eventually gets to a point where it feels like they might be testing the waters. Like they're throwing the fishing line in there to see if the thing will bobble. Do you think there's any possibility we get like some type of announcement of like we're going to start giving out a stunt award? Otherwise, that's just pointless, right?
Yeah, like I remember, I think like I got a notification this year whenever they announced a new category, and I was just like, before I opened it, I was like, oh, it's going to be stunts, because like people have been wanting that for years, and like I feel like stunts have been so much more recognized by like the public in recent years. But yeah, that was just a very odd moment whenever they just had the montage and they were just like, thank you guys.
Yeah, it felt strange.
Especially since they weren't doing that with like anything else really.
No. Yeah,
very odd.
I don't get it. And you know what's weird? And obviously I'm not a member of any of these guilds or have any understanding of how a movie set works or who does what and who gets awarded what. And I'm also not a member enough to get an award at a ceremony. But like I thought about this, like, if everyone goes on stage, like for like the producers obviously go on stage to accept the award for Best Picture, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why can't that also be kind of a built-in like casting director thing? Because like, you see what I'm saying? Like without the casting director, you don't have a movie.
Yeah.
I know it's a little bit of a wonky thing, but
that just gets back to the director sound thing we talked about earlier.
That's fair.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah. It feels less, I don't want to say it feels less important than like a stunt award, but I feel like one could be mitigated a lot easier than the other.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, like if we're going to give one an award, do the other as well. Like that's the thing.
For me, it's weird. Like, okay, to you, does this feel like, whenever I heard the best casting thing, is that like their response to like maybe acknowledging like superhero movies and stuff?
I don't know, man, because you got stuff like Spotlight. You had stuff like Oppenheimer this year. Speaking of which, I want to watch Spotlight. I'm doing this thing where I'm going back and watching the last 10 best pictures. I haven't watched Coda. Really? I haven't watched Nomadland, and I haven't watched Moonlight. So those are the first three that I got to get to. But what's that?
Yeah, well, I've seen Coda and Nomadland, and yeah.
That's funny. But I'll say something. But like a lot of these massive Best Picture nominees oftentimes have like a pretty massive ensemble. And here's the thing, right? Like the Oscars are at such a prestigious place that I feel like it's not the Golden Globes. I feel like if you bring that in, you can't just relegate it to specific movies. And if you don't nominate other movies, it kind of takes credibility away from the award itself.
I think that's more what I meant. Like, I think I meant more populist movies. I didn't mean like specifically superhero movies. Like, I think it kind of is their way of opening the door to movies that aren't just like your dominant movies that year.
Sure.
Awards.
I guess to me though, the argument doesn't change. It feels a little bit like second choice to chocolate to me. Do you get the vibe? Do you get that vibe?
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know if that would happen because of the credibility of it all. I don't think they want to water down the award because there's already like questions about whether or not how people get them and how they're nominated. And it's not the Golden Globes. It's definitely not that. But there's still like Sandra Hüller, Bradley Cooper, Leonardo DiCaprio. The list goes on and on and on and on. Like the people who were not nominated that should have been nominated. Like there's already like weird things that happen there. And I don't know that you want to actually add in a thing and then not nominate things that are very obviously better just so you can recognize other things. Like I get it from the standpoint of like, we need to attract more viewers. But by the way, last night, I think they peaked at like 19.5, which is like 4 times better than, I forget the exact sum, but it's like 4 times better than previous year. So they got a lot of viewers last night. Shout out Iron Man. No, but, and I guess Barbie, but I just don't know that you want to do that. I don't know how well that would work because it feels second rate inherently just through that idea.
It does. Like, I feel like casting directors are very important. I'm not trying to diminish anything, but just whenever that one was announced, I was like, oh, that's the one we thought was like essential right now.
No. I think that the weird thing to me is like the ensemble at like let me clear this. Like I was not saying that you were like, my implication was not that you were downplaying casting directors. My implication was that I don't know that we institute that as an award just to award popular movies because it removes any legitimacy to the award. That being said, like the idea of a casting director award, though I'm not against having it, feels more like a SAG thing. Like Best Picture, I would think, is an ensemble thing. You see what I'm saying? Whereas like at SAG, ensemble is Best Picture. Right? Am I misunderstanding that?
Mm-hmm. Pretty much. It's their way of,
obviously so does their casting director thing, is it going specifically to a person or is it going to the cast? If it's going specifically to the person, I guess award it. But again, like where's the line? Where does that line begin and where does that end? Like, because if we're awarding, there are other people who work on a movie like stunt directors that should also get an award.
It's weird to me. You know what? I think this is why it's so weird. Prime example this year, Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
Was the casting director the reason they got those actors in those roles?
You know, I don't.
The fact that these people wanted to work with Christopher Nolan.
That's a legitimate question, and this is something that I have been waffling over with Brianna about Dune Part 2 because of like the thing that I sent you with like what people got paid, and I'm like, there is no way. Like I can't imagine people being okay with like their agents accepting this. And so like Rami Malek, yes, right? Like I feel like that one's a pretty obvious yes. Maybe Alden Ehrenreich, yes. Hartnett, maybe yes. Is it Hartnett? It's Hartnett, right? Others, like I don't know, man. Like it's a little like I don't want to say it's a little below their pay grade, but it is strange. So
Yeah.
I
Wait, did you just say? Hold on. Were you saying that this was what was the Rami Malek thing?
I'm saying that Rami Malek absolutely just wanted to work with Christopher Nolan.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because like I'm saying Rami Malek did. I'm saying that Hartnett did. I'm saying that.
Well, that's not even. I don't know if I mean exactly like. Of course, yeah, it's because they want to work with Christopher Nolan, but also, I feel like Christopher Nolan was probably like, I want this person.
Yeah, and they were probably like, dude, let me clear my schedule.
Like the whole thing has been like he called Cillian Murphy. He's like, you're going to be Oppenheimer. He's like, oh, okay. And then you had same thing with Downey. Like he called Downey in, and Downey was like, yeah, I'm interested. And like, you know, it's just where's that line whenever you get to these like master directors that are out there right now, like, or even Barbie, for example.
Yeah.
Like she wrote into the script the people she wanted to play these characters. Who gets that award?
Yeah, I mean, do we know that Barbie in this case or Oppenheimer in this case have a casting director? Because I mean, I would think that.
I mean, surely they do.
I mean, do they?
I'm gonna look it up. All right.
Well, I was about to say, like, could it not just be like Emma Thompson or Nolan? Because in the same way that Nolan's also a producer on his own film, you see what I'm saying? Like, I would be curious.
Was John Papsidera.
Who?
You know, John Papsidera.
That's my boy.
You know, Academy Award winner John Papsidera from this year's.
Yeah, I don't know. I would think that it would have to be like very. It sounds like an executive producer. Like that's what it sounds like to me. Like in that case.
Yeah.
Because like I mean, even Margot Robbie, right? Like the movie began and ended with her. Like we can congratulate Greta Gerwig, and she deserves congratulations for a lot of that movie. But Margot Robbie is the reason that movie exists. Like, and like end of story. And so like. She acted in that movie. And I know ultimately, based on everything we know, that she kind of told Greta, I was like, hey, get the person that you want. That's my person. And then ultimately it just happened to be her. But I don't know. Like it just feels like an executive producer on like some of these major ones. So maybe you're on to something with like, it's not some of these like Arthur films, but like, I don't know. It's definitely weird. Because I don't know where that line begins and ends.
And then you've also okay, this might be going a bit too far. But just like you think a guy like Quentin Tarantino, who very well known for he's the guy who picks the people he wants in his movies.
There's a story out right now about that. I don't know if you've seen it.
Yeah. Yeah, that one's interesting for sure. But yeah, so he basically picks all of his people, and are we going to get to a point where guys like that, knowing a guy like Tarantino, the ego he has, is he going to supplant that casting director role so that he gets acknowledgement for it? Might be going a bridge too far, but
I don't know. Like, again,
there's probably union. I mean, there's probably like they've probably got it set up to where you can't do stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, it's also interesting because like it's well known that they're so like their hand is so much on the wheel. And like I don't want to say there are exceptions to the rule because I don't believe that, but I feel like most people who work with them knows there's an exception to the rule. And they were like, okay, I will put my name on this and I will gladly accept my Oscar if we get nominated. I feel like that's probably the vibe. I could be incorrect, but I feel like that's probably the way that works. Is that an true question?
I think so.
I can't, I can't imagine like Oppenheimer, Nolan or Denny just sets, like, obviously casting directors are so incredibly important. They proved that over years. But there were definitely directors out there who are so intrinsically involved in every single aspect of the filmmaking process that, one, they've earned, and two, that people who want to work with them know that there's going to be an Oppenheimer one day. And if I'm on that Oppenheimer movie, I'm getting an Oscar. And so I don't know. I think there's a bit of that.
Yeah. It's like ring chasing.
Absolutely. Let me ask you this, not to completely end that conversation, but how did we feel about the In Memoriam segment last night? It's weird, right?
Yeah. It was okay. Not even mentioning the song choice. It was the dance performance was just I don't know how I feel about that.
I just felt like you couldn't really read anything. Like, I feel like I remember they used to fill the screen with the names and the pictures.
They did? Yeah, it used to just, that slide they show there, that was what they showed on the screen.
Yeah, I didn't like that you couldn't actually, like, read it. Like, that made me really mad. And, like, I feel like I, unintentionally, but also it just happened naturally. Because of that choice, like, I just lost complete interest. Like, it was one of the, and normally I'm reading to see, hey, do I recognize this person? And I didn't find myself doing that last night. To counteract that, though, dude, what was the funniest bit last night?
I mean, I guess it's like, we're talking bits.
Yeah.
I mean, there were like 3 that I really liked.
Okay, go ahead.
I love the whole sequence. Schwarzenegger and DeVito was just so funny.
Absolutely.
The Mulaney thing was really good. And then obviously, I think it's probably the best one is the Cena thing.
Yeah, I think so.
It's so funny.
That might be the best bit I've ever seen in my life.
Oh my gosh, Joe, I was laughing so hard.
And he, like, full on commit. I didn't think, like, I thought the joke was going to end, as him just peeking over and announce it that way, which I thought would have been really funny in itself. But then when he, like, waddled over to the center of the stage.
Yes.
And then it ended up being for costume design. It was like the best thing in the world.
So good.
I love the way they utilized the messy stand-in. That was really funny and just out of the blue. That worked. We already mentioned John Mulaney, but his, like, Field of Dreams thing really worked. Kate McKinnon and America Ferrera. Kate McKinnon was gunning for an Oscar in that bit.
Oh, so funny. She is so funny to me, man.
Yes. Like, insanely talented. Like, honestly, I've had this thought, and maybe I'm incorrect in this. Dude, I think there's a world where she deserves a nomination over America.
I think so. My wife said that last night.
Really? Okay.
Whenever they showed her, she was like, she should have been nominated instead of that other lady.
I thought that earlier in the day yesterday. I'm like, why wasn't Kate McKinnon nominated? But it is what it is. Any final things on the Oscars?
Something interesting.
Okay.
That I kept noticing. I don't know if you noticed this.
Okay.
Did you notice the first name that every member of of basically everyone who went up for an Oppenheimer award said first, like who they think first?
I don't think so.
Like, all of them mentioned Matt Damon first.
Really?
Yeah. No.
Were they trolling Jimmy Kimmel?
I don't know. I don't think so. Like, it seemed really sincere. Like, Nolan, he was the first actor Nolan mentioned, the first one that Killian mentioned. This is really interesting to me because I feel like that's kind of a very underrated performance, and it was kind of their way of being like, he kind of deserves recognition for his performance in this movie as well.
Dude, you can put it on my gravestone. The one scene of him yelling at that guy in the hallway, that is an Oscar sizzle will. Like, you will not change my mind.
Yeah. And like his reaction to finding out he met with Casey Affleck's character.
Yep.
And then like his final little moment there in the interrogation room where like he backs him up.
Yeah.
Dude, he's so good. He is really good in this movie. He's another guy who I think is very overdue.
That's a good shout, actually.
For acting, like I know,
dude,
obviously Hillman and Affleck.
He should have won for The Martian. I don't even know what was up
he
for.
Really should have.
I don't even know what won that year. I just know that I remember watching him in The Martian that year, and I'm like, he should have won.
He's so good. That's like one of the most rewatchable movies ever to me.
So we're gonna have to start making a long, because we get a long list as is. The Martian's one of those. Well, I mean, this is perfect. Gladiator 2 is coming out this year, so what's we can do Gladiator, we can do The Martian. So that's like perfect.
So good.
Dude, I watched La La Land tonight. I couldn't get by. I saw Emma Stone and Ryan Gosling last night, and I'm like, I need to do it.
I love it, man. I need Gosling to come and save Damien from director jail.
Dude, is it Gosling one of those that's like, he needs an Oscar?
I think he is. I mean, I think we talked to like Zach about this a while back. Like, he's had nominations going back to like the mid 2000s.
Yeah. I'm still indifferent on whether or not he should have won over Robert Downey Jr. last night. I don't know that I believe that.
I don't think so.
Here's my thing. And I don't know if this is byproduct of remembering the movie. I just think in 10 years, I'll use my example that I used for Emma Stone. In 10 years, like, you're going to think of Emma Stone's performance of Bella Baxter. You just are. She's incredible in that movie. Like, she completely, without transforming her body like Bradley Cooper tried to do, she transformed her body. Like, she is not the same person. You're going to remember that performance over Lily Gladstone. You just are. Like, Lily Gladstone's fantastic. Any other year she wins. Emma Stone, you're just going to remember that performance. I think of that in the same way that I think of Cillian Murphy. That's the reason I think ultimately he probably beat Paul Giamatti.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, and again, I don't know if it's because I'm associating Robert Downey Jr. like adjacent to Cillian Murphy, but I think you're likely, and this is a weird conversation because you get into the Barbie of it all. Like, Barbie, I think, will be a cult classic, but the problem with being a cult classic is there is a cult that likes your movie. Mm. It's a very, I don't want to say a very select few people, but it's just not, I don't know how long it's going to stay in the zeitgeist outside of the people who like watching, Brianna's a really big fan of this one. I'm blanking on the name of it. Rocky Horror Picture Show. Not many people go visit that one. But if you're a massive fan of that movie, you'll go revisit it. And Ryan Gosling's fantastic as Ken. I'm not sure that in 10 years, we're going to be thinking of Ryan Gosling as Ken. I'm not convinced of that yet. I could be wrong.
Like, I think he's very good in this movie, and he's a lot of what does work in this movie.
Absolutely.
Like, he's the best, like, he's the thing that works the most in terms of like just pure entertainment. That being said, it's probably not even the fourth or fifth performance I think of when I think of Ryan Gosling.
Yeah. I'm not a massive fan of Drive. I'm going to revisit it this week because Brianna's never seen it. But I think of Drive before I think of that. I think of La La Land before I think of Ken. I think he got Ken because of La La Land in a lot of ways.
Nice Guys.
Yeah, like the list goes on. I hope, if anything, we get a Nice Guys too because of Barbie.
Please.
Like that's what I
Please.
want. I was going to say something else. Another weird thing I noticed about watching Barbie the second time, I think you may have mentioned this. I can't remember if you said this or not, or if I just had heard this somewhere else. Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling are in two different movies.
They are.
And
I think we talked about that. Yeah.
each of them are great movies of their own, but they're in completely separate movies.
Yeah.
Anywho, I like Barbie. Barbie's good. It's just good though. Sadly, it's not as great as I thought it was when I initially watched it. Any last things? Anything come to mind?
I don't know. I'm just glad Nolan finally got his due. I'm glad Oppenheimer, one of the greatest movies I've ever seen, won Best Picture. I'm glad. I mean, I'm just happy with most of the results of this one.
Yeah, this one, not a lot to be upset with, if anything. Not a lot. I'm really curious to. I'm already, like, it's only a day removed, but I cannot wait for next year. I'm so very excited.
Mm-hmm.
Dune 2 is going to sweep like the techs. I don't even have to watch any movies this year.
Oh, the text, yeah.
Yeah, it's going to sweep the techs.
Megalopolis.
Listen, I'm excited for that movie. Francis Ford Coppola is not in his prime anymore. Clip this and ship it, and we'll talk about it in a year from now. But
You don't even know, Matt.
I'm not sure Francis Ford Coppola knows, but I will be in that seat to find out. Anywho, we will catch you guys next time. I'm not sure what you're going to hear when we show up next week, but we'll see you guys then. Adios.